What is up, y'all? So we are going to be reacting to the aquatic sports performance interview with Kim McEvoy. It's a 2 hour long interview. We're obviously not going to do the full 2 hours. Maybe we'll make this into like a little series and do a few weeks in a row of this for Fridays until we get through it all. But I've had some correspondence with Cam on my own Instagram, my Rakely Instagram, and he's actually checking out some of my content right now. So hopefully we can get some good feedback on that. I think that'd be really cool. But yeah, let's just he's talking to about his unique training style. So let's just dive straight into it and see what they're talking about.
Movement where you put your thumbs into your armpits, like right into them.
I've never seen a human body out of the water that high in my life. I was like, what
Yeah.
the? Oh, what's up, dude?
Finally, I'm sorry about the delay.
No, it's okay.
We got here though. We got here.
You got. Well, I appreciate that, man. I feel like even though like we've only met once at that one time in Singapore, um,
Be there. But I had to do that to see what would happen. And again, I did that in its most extreme way. I learned a lot. It was a successful season. And yeah, many things I could take out of that and put into another season, well, this season that I'm doing now. And so the exciting thing is I've got a full seasonal plan where it's probably the first time I'm not leaning into a new approach that scares the shit out of me because it's an extreme version of what I'm trying to figure out. Everything feels pretty comfortable. Everything, I think the peak contrast, but instead of a bodyweight pull up, it's more specific swimming.
right.
And basically, the whole idea around that block is to introduce sprinting closer to maximum efforts. And basically, hopefully at that point, I've gotten my ability to get that kind of neural signal as maximal as I can. And then I'll go into the water. And then for the rest of the season, the whole idea is keeping that as high as it can in terms of maintenance in the gym and exposure to sprinting and swimming, and then developing the ability to repeatedly send as much of that, like as high of a percentage of that signal.
Okay, I'm going to say this just to start off. My worry is that this is going to be, I'm not going to say highly technical, but and he's obviously talking, real talk about what he's doing. He's still trying to beat another, double gold medalist, so I doubt he's going to give away too much, which, the real stuff that we actually want to know. But the thing that I worry about is that it's going to be too, and I don't know anything about Cam. I've had some correspondence with him over Instagram. He's actually checking out my Anchor the Catch stuff right now. So that'll be really cool, getting some feedback. Oh my goodness, what's going on? Some feedback from him on that. But I feel like so okay, a lot of elite swimmers, they'll talk about the feeling of it. And this is where with our Rakely content we try to bridge this gap where the athlete, they know what it looks like and what it feels like. And when like one of the UT swimmers, like let's say Garrett Wilbergill is teaching me something, right? He's watching me do it and he's like, no, it needs to feel like this. Because he can tell that how I'm moving, I'm not making the right feeling. So he'd be like, no, you need to feel like you're doing this. So I'll do it again and my hand probably won't be in the right place. He's like, no, you're not there more. Like you need to feel way over here. And then I'll do it and it'll be in the right place. And it's kind of an assumption made like, yeah, do you feel that difference? And you feel the difference, right? Because you feel like you're over here instead of over here. And he goes, that's the right thing. So what you see and what you feel do not look the same, but you have to feel like that for the actual aesthetic to pop up. And you hope that the feature is there because you're doing the thing right, which is reaching over here. I worry that he's going to be too much on that instead of breaking it down into something that we can make sense of and multiply at scale for many athletes. So we'll see. Let's go.
As
Yeah.
possible over and over again for hopefully around 20 seconds and just getting really, really good at being able to do that.
I just thought of a good analogy for what you're talking about. So your strength phase is like, I guess I just like buckets, but the strength phase is like a funnel, right? You're trying to fill that funnel as big as possible with as much water as possible, right?
Yep.
And then I've heard you say, you've always said, your technique, your power has to filter through your freestyle technique, right? So that means the funnel, right? Your technique is how big that funnel is. So as you improve your swimming skill, the exit point of the funnel is getting wider.
There's two ways to think about this, right? So you're trying to fill your funnel up with fluid, right? And he's saying that I always think about this like a fire hose. So or a hose on a faucet. So I'm going to try and explain this two different ways. Your technique determines how far that fluid goes. Right now, he's saying filter through, which is another cool way to think about it, right? So if I have bad technique, I'm only going to have a tiny bit of my work coming out of my funnel, right? The better technique I have, the more I get closer to a 1-to-1 ratio or a 1-to-2 ratio where somehow I'm multiplying what I put in. That's the ideal, right? And that's usually just pure genetic talent, right? Or gifts, like I have a long wingspan, right? That's another way you can multiply. The way I always thought about it is the other way, okay? If I put like 1 liter in this, it's kind of plop out. Whereas if I can pressurize it through technique, I'm going to be able to really funnel and shoot that for a long distance and have a lot more control over what I can do with the 1 liter that goes in, right? That liter of work. So there's kind of two ways to think about what they're talking about right now.
Right. So basically what you're trying to do is make the funnel as big as possible, get as much water in there as possible. And then when you transition, you're trying to open up the exit hole of that funnel. So as you know, if swimming speed is the flow rate of water, that's basically what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
In that strength phase,
exactly,
in the
actually.
absolute strength phase, you're doing swimming still, right?
Yeah. So in the strength phase, I'm doing technical work. Pretty much what I did into Japan, I'll probably keep doing that. So 2 to 3 times a week, sub-max.
And also sorry guys, I think I might have had double volume on right there. What he's describing right now is what every other sport does, but they do it with conditioning. And I guess strength training too, because you're not trying to get injured in the middle of the season. But they do all of their like heaviest lifting for like get stronger, not to maintain, but to get stronger in the preseason, all their conditioning, and then they coast. So for example, when I was in high school, we did this thing called Run to the State Tournament for basketball. So I lived in Round Rock. Austin, Texas is where the state tournament is held. That's like 20 minutes. So we ran a mile every day for 20 days straight. Your boy got down to 4:59, just under 5 minutes. This kid Ross was he's always would beat me barely every day. It was so annoying. I pushed myself harder and he'd push himself harder. And it's rare that your big man is the second fastest miler on your team, right? Shout out to swimming for that. But yeah, that's how all the other sports do it. And when I say things like the future of the sport is in other sports, it's things like this. Like my ultimate strategy that, when I get into coaching, like whether it's club or collegiate, it's going to change everything. Like you won't be able to do doubles. You won't be able to have these I think an hour might be pushing it. For real.
7-8 RPE. Stroke rate wise, if you were to put numbers on it, I race between 60 and 63. Maybe my reps are at 58 or something like that. But the whole idea is I'm developing this non-specific area in the gym, but I can't degrade my technique as I do that. And if I spend time away from that, that's going to degrade. Technique, like itself, is very dynamic. It has its own SRA curve. It fatigues, it recovers, it over adapts, etc. And so if you don't expose yourself to it, obviously, if you don't do something, you're going to get less good at it.
Yeah.
And so the whole idea is to maintain.
You're doing sub-max sprinting pretty much that whole time to maintain the feel of your technique.
Yeah. So it can also, like, one way to look at it is it's also maintaining a floor for, I guess, sprint work capacity, but it's not all out sprint. Like, for example, if you flip it around and you're going into comp and you want to do some gym maintenance, like you're not going to be hitting and you're doing sets of 5, you're not hitting 5 RM max every time you do it. You might be 10-ish% off or something like that. It's a very similar concept, just flipped foot in the swimming while you're pressing the foot on the accelerator for the gym work. And so, yeah, basically I'll be leaning into gym while maintaining my technique. And then I'll go through a phase where, because all the gym work is very slow, it's maximum strength, it's not really converting it into how fast can I produce this strength. I'll do a phase of introducing power work, stepping up the specificity around swimming. And then also that phase leads into the China Open in March, which then is kind of a nice transitional point to then come home and then flip the script where swimming becomes the number one priority. And gym, I'm doing my best to improve as many qualities as I can in the gym, but keeping it to a point where I have minimal fatigue spilling over.
Like I said, and then in the middle of the season, they're just trying to maintain, right? Fill some gaps in as big as you can, but the goal isn't to get stronger anymore. It's to maintain, just like they do in basketball and football.
To then affect what I want to develop in the water. And basically from April into Commonwealth Games, it just follows a pretty standard swim block that I've always done. Like, you accumulate your volume of sprinting, you get that nice base of like fitness that is fast but not as fast as you can go, and then as you get closer to the competition season, you freshen up, you expose yourself to higher intensities, adapt to those new speeds, and then hopefully when you rest off the back of that, you get that little step forward and produce something nice.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
In that power phase, sorry, I want to go back to the power phase. In that power phase, are you starting to do all out sprinting and like destro work or 1080 work for you, right?
Yeah. So the plan at the moment is I'm going to introduce a little bit of all out sprinting. So, like, for example, twice a week, I might do something of the order of 4 to 5 20 meters sprinting. I haven't yet narrowed in on what type of weight or what type of resistance I'll be sitting at. It's probably not going to be heavy, probably not going to be light. It'll be somewhere in that middle point. But yeah, basically I'll expose myself to low volume twice a week, maxing out with resistance, and it's important that it's resistance.
See, he's talking about it even more, right? Just backing off in the weight room, and then you're coasting off what you did in the preseason.
Body weight at that point in the season too. I want to be a little bit, like, on the force velocity curve, I want to be a little bit closer towards the force side, and then take my time moving down the velocity side as I go through the season. And then also I'm so optimized at that point in time for strength output that it just it's I could put a lot more into the water under resistance than I could at body weight at that point in time. And then you add in things like the coordination of freestyle at body weight will be a little bit less than the coordination of freestyle under resistance. And so, just a little bit of exposure with that. And then outside of that, it's still mainly technique work and work that basically doesn't spill over fatigue wise into whatever I'm doing in the gym in that transitional phase, and also the resisted work as well.
What's your swimming frequency at that point? It's 4 times still?
So that's the one thing I'm thinking about playing around with. So I've got 3 times a week in the strength block, and then I'm thinking of moving that up to 5 in that transitional phase. Reason being, I'll keep the 3 technique sessions that I would have been doing leading into that. That's going to be the same. There's going to be no change in any type of exposure in that sense. But then the gym sessions, which then have the small volume of resisted sprinting, that can technically count as a swim, even though it might be 80 meters or 100 meters, and that's it. And effectively, like, I think you can interchange. If I'm doing, let's say, like a heavy pull up into a bodyweight pull up, and then contrasting that to a heavy pull up into a
bodyweight swim,
resisted swim, you can say it's swimming, but the perspective that I'm taking is it's just
counts as
it's
gym.
just a fast movement.
Right.
Yeah. So you can put it in the gym basket, you can put it in the swim basket. And yeah, I just like the idea that it's that little bit more swim specific.
Yeah.
But yeah, outside of that, it's really semantics.
So it's you're swimming 4 to 5 times basically in that phase.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of toying. I'm actually in the middle of designing our next phase. That's kind of why selfishly I had you on the podcast because I wanted to pick your brain. We're gonna swim 3 times in our GPP phase, just because I think it's way too much to swim any more than that.
And personally, I hate when people do this. Like, I feel like the only people who speak this version of English are people in the strength community. The rest of us have no idea what that is. And I think it's just like, talk to me like I'm a dumb athlete. Hit me with some athlete science. Like, I remember learning about like or coaches would say like eccentric, concentric forces. And it's like, you're an 18-year-old athlete. Like, I don't know what that means. Why are you talking to me like this? Just say push through your legs or you're pulling into your body. Like, why you need to be so scientific about it? Like, I'm an athlete. I'm not a rocket scientist. So, like, I don't know what he's talking about right now. And, obviously Cam does, I guess, but most of us don't.
And I really want them to focus just on gym when we're in there and they're not taxed from swimming. And then kind of like our transition phase, I'm thinking about, I think we went 6 times. Or no, we went 5 times last season. But I'm thinking about dropping it to 4 just because we had a bunch of like, and I don't know if you've dealt with this, we had a bunch of like little small nagging injuries. And one of the mistakes I made was I combined a really heavy destro phase with my heavy strength block in the gym. I doubled up on it because I got too greedy. Like we had US Open and I think it was like 13 weeks or something. So I was like, oh, we need to get all this in. I don't have enough time. So I just stacked them together and we ended up getting, accumulating some injuries. So I'm going to change that up this season. But I was really worried about if we go down to 4 times per week, like, are we going to lose technique? Are we going to lose feel? Another thing I was worried about is like when we train our female athletes, like, I don't know.
Sorry about the double volume again, guys. But I think on what he's saying, I think the correct answer is who cares? Right? Like, do it with confidence and get your data point. Get that extra data point that gives you more feedback, because that's what these mid-season meets are, right? Like, at their level, realistically, you're resting for 1 meet a year, which is, August meet, whatever, Summer Nationals, US Open, World Champ Trials, whatever it is. And then on the even grander scale, it's once every 4 years is what you're training for. So why are you not just saying, damn the torpedoes and getting that data point? It may be a super crucial data point that you may not realize that is a difference maker when you get to those big meets. So, like, do it. Get the data point.
Is this going to be enough volume for our female athletes? What do you think?
So 2 things. First one is an example on the female side. There's a girl from Singapore. She's 32, Amanda. She just won the Southeast Asian Games for the 50 freestyle, dropped a 25:03. I think it was her second or third best time ever. Her best time's 24:94 or something, ballpark. Okay. She trains with Bobby Hurley over in Singapore, but she's been doing her strength and mobility under Matt Smith, who I've been doing my stuff with. Mm-hmm. And after the Singapore World Champs, where she went 25.5, maybe, or around 25.5 in the 50 frame, they pivoted and went into basically like what I just described. So they did a really nice gym block. They worked towards those high rep ranges too, that 6 to 8 rep range, which, at least in my perspective, has been pretty commonly not trained from my exposure to like swimming world, and really pushing the numbers up as high as you can in that range. So she did a couple of months doing that, very little swimming, like literally maintenance swimming, and then comes out at Southeast Asian Games, drops point 0.5 from world champs.
Wow. What was
And
her swimming
so
frequency? 3 times, 4 times?
I'm not exactly sure. I asked Bobby Hurley a couple of days ago. He said he'll get back to me.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
shout out Bobby Hurley to reach out. And when he gets back to me, I can let you know. But
Okay.
basically, apparently it was not that frequent, or at the very least not intense, like all submax, nothing all out. And she almost did a lifetime best. If you look at her race analysis and then compare my one in Japan at the Japan Open, very similar. So stroke rate started pretty similar to what you would when you're pretty fresh, but then a huge drop off, much lower than what we both would normally finish on, which is indicative of we're in a big strength block. We don't have that power endurance type of thing yet, which is good, low hanging fruit to move it forward. But also the first 30 meters, she actually did a 35 PB, so 15, 25, and 35 PB, purely from improving her general raw strength output while just maintaining her technique. And so, yeah, from a female side of things, to me, it definitely works. There's space to explore in that range, and I think there's also a balance between what the swimmer is comfortable with as well.
Right.
Because usually people who are doing this stuff have a history of kind of what they've been exposed to, they're used to, and they have a belief in terms of, I really like doing this. This makes me feel comfortable, and I think that can't be underestimated. The comfortability of
The mental side. There's times I remember, like during the, I have my beliefs about the lockdowns and stuff, but there's times where I wouldn't share my beliefs intentionally because they're confident in their process, and confidence and not feeling like you're under threat is the best medicine. So, like you said, a big part. That's why, like a lot of times with my athletes, especially my one-on-ones, I'll say like let's do it the way you like it. Especially once they master it, then it's about getting what we're doing to something that they like doing. Because if they like it, that's just only going to make them a more confident racer. So yeah, shout out that. This is a great point. Confidence and comfort, not necessarily in like the literal translations, but in kind of what they're getting at, is an underrated part of being in a great competitor in general, or performer in general.
I said two things. I can't remember the other thing.
That always happens to me too. It's okay.
Yeah, man, I can't. So the first thing was Amanda with the. Oh yeah, there's a lot of talk in the swimming world about needing to keep feel for the water, needing to expose yourself in the water for a very frequent amount of time, and if you leave the water for a day, 2 days, etc., all things fall apart. My personal viewpoint of this is that is a relic of the way training is done traditionally.
I agree.
In the sense,
I agree.
yeah, I think you know where I'm going.
Yeah,
with
I
this.
know.
If you're in the water 9-10 times a week for 2 hours, and then you have 36 hours off, like your Saturday morning to even 48 hours off, Saturday morning to Monday morning, which everyone normally does. You go from so much frequency to not doing it, your body's going to feel off and not have that connection to the water. But if you are used to swimming 4 times a week, 5 times a week, 3 times a week, and then you have your every session's at least the 24 hours in between or more. If you have 48 hours off on the weekend, you come in and you'll feel fine. There's no loss of feel because you're adapted to a certain amount of frequency.
Yeah, I accidentally stumbled upon this because like in my own training, I'm swimming just because of logistics of my work and stuff. Like I only swim 3 to 4 times a week. And then I was like, hey, I didn't lose my feel. Everyone told me I lose my feel. I didn't lose my feel. This is strange. But yeah, that actually gives me a lot of confidence.
The other strange thing that I noticed was before doing this type of training, I would get in and easy swimming felt awesome. Like every time I'd get in the water, 400 easy at the start felt awesome. Maybe a bit of threshold technique felt awesome. And pace would always be pretty hit and miss, especially as the pace got faster. Now I get in the water, I'll do a 200, 300 easy at the start. I feel like a fish out of water in that 200. I feel like I can't swim. I feel so bad. There's no connection. There's nothing. But I get in and do any form of sprinting, even if it's like a 60% effort upwards to whatever. And it feels like what easy swimming used to feel like. Like my sprinting and my comfortability with that type of movement pattern is by far infinitely better than what it was before. And then my easy stuff is just like, yeah, I forget how to swim.
Yeah, because you practice that skill so many times. Like sprinting is, I always say sprinting is a skill, and you've put so much time under attention with that skill, and you worked on it that it feels so natural, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And like this has implications for so much in the traditional training. Like you might spend 99% of your entire week training on that slow technique, and such a small percentage actually doing the race pace technique, which is the technique.
Okay, so I think this is probably where we're gonna close it off. Actually, let's let him finish, and then I'll talk.
That you're wanting to do at the end of the season. And so if you if you expand that out over an entire season, you could have 40 plus weeks of doing that. And then all of a sudden you come into taper, and it's very well known taper throws you about. Like mentally, you kind of lose your confidence because your feel goes out of the water. You feel pretty shit in the water initially. You go through a semi-unpredictable path through taper, but a lot of that could also be partially described by simply going from so much easy swimming and a little bit of pace to they cut down a lot of the easy swimming, they do a lot more pace. And so they're exposed to a higher volume of this technique that they're not used to, which then becomes a stimulus. And then also add on top of that, the times they hit, because they're so much fresher, because the aerobic load's lower, et cetera, are like the intensities are higher, which means that's another, it's like going up weight in the gym. Yeah. That's another stimulus. And so taper stops being the freshening up of qualities, and it's just a retraining in another domain, which like it takes a couple of weeks to then.
All right, so this is something that I'm going through right now with a lot of my teenager athletes, or pubescent teenage athletes who are now bigger and have muscles and were super talented youngsters, but now they're having to actually work for it, but they've never worked for it before. And now that I'm teaching them how to like train with tempo, they're like falling apart. And it's exactly what he's saying. It's like a brand new stimulus. And a lot of times it only, like the way I explained it to a lot of these people is, or these kids and their parents, is that the first time that they're ever doing this is when they race in a swim meet. Of course they're unprepared. So, you know, I actually have it in one of my one-on-one reviews for the month, or for January 4th. You can go watch. It's Goldilocks Zone, tempo, and technique. And you can see how I talked through it in his first 100 freestyle. Like, he almost like shocked himself with how tired he was. Like, you know, like went into fight or flight mode. So it's like you said, and this is where he even talked about how he's gotten so used to swimming at a certain level of speed that when he goes easy, it feels weird. And that's kind of, I'm not saying you want to have that exact thing happening, but you need your fast or close to your fast or your race swimming to be done in practice to where your body adapts to it. And it's no longer something that your body's shocked into when it does it for the first time at the end of the year. So anyway, guys, thanks for hanging out. I hope y'all liked this. I thought it was pretty good once we got going. Had to skip about 15 minutes of stuff, but yeah, pretty good. I think, let me know in the comments if y'all want to see like, you know, maybe a little 4-part series where we go through the whole video. I think that might be a good idea. It sounds like they're starting to get warmed up into their conversation, so I'm sure it only gets better. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about that, 4-part series or not. Make sure you turn on that notification bell, that noti bell, as I'm learning is what it's called. Subscribe, hit that like button, help boost us in the algorithm so we can get these breakdowns to the people who need them. Once again, thanks for hanging out. Peace.